HD, and you're listening to the Tye Pod. Hi, everybody. It's another episode of the Tye Pod, and today I'm joined by Avery, who has experience navigating life with some chronic illnesses. And I know you have POTS and hypermobility and some other things we're going to discuss today. And definitely, I know there's some things that we have in common that we'll get into as well. So sure happy to have you join, and looking forward to talking.
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah. So just somewhat of an icebreaker question, I guess, to start. Is there a song you feel is your theme song kind of as you've grown up and experienced these different things, or is there one that's maybe a current song that you feel like partially connected to or anything like that?
I think like in the last year, I've really resonated with Let It All Work Out by Lil Wayne.
Mhm.
Especially when I started my like first full-time job in like my field of work. And that was something that's like I would literally listen to it every single day on the way to work to just kind of like hype me up for the day and
Yep.
help me believe that I could get through it. So
Yeah. Kind of a hype song, like give you the good
yeah,
energy to start the day. Yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty cool. What was your career path, and is it the same now?
I'm still searching for jobs since we moved
Yeah.
across the country, but prior to moving, I was working as a case manager for people on the Community Access for Disability Inclusion waiver, Medicaid waiver in Minnesota.
Is that kind of the general direction that you're looking there, or do you feel like it might be something different?
Yeah, I'm still looking for like case management jobs, specifically with people who are disabled and stuff. So
Yeah.
looking to
Well,
stay
that's
in that area.
very needed, I think, and you having kind of a personal connection too, like to that probably helps, I
Yeah,
would
it
think.
really does. And like
Yeah.
it's just super nice to be able to work around people that are like similar to me. So
Yeah.
it's relatable too.
Do you feel like it's helped you kind of navigate that area as well, as far as like finding maybe like financial assistance or anything, or just being aware of kind of what's out there?
Yeah, I think it's like really helped with being able to like know some of those things. And I used to be someone that was on Medicaid as well, and
Mhm.
that was prior to me having this job. So if I ever needed to do that again, like it's a really just great knowledge to have and also to be able to share with like family and friends who are going through those things too.
True. Yeah. Is there like one thing that you kind of, once you started that job and learned more about it, is there like something that was like, oh, now I see kind of how to navigate this, or like some kind of tips or anything that helped, or just general
I
experience?
I think like the financial aspect of it and stuff, especially since
Mhm.
like being on Medicaid, you can't have over a certain limit of assets and things like that. And there are some like tips and tricks that we would like give our clients to be
Yeah.
able to get the most out of their services while still being able to have some sort of income or, assets and things like that.
Yeah. It seems like you try to maximize both to the extent you can. And even then, I know it can be, really difficult to make everything work out still
Yeah.
too. So it's complicated. Do you feel like those are tricks that every Medicaid program has consistently, or I know it's like very state by state based, it seems like on that.
I'm not sure. There are some ways for people to allocate their funds differently, at least in Minnesota, so that they can be able to receive more, but I'm not sure
Mhm.
if that's like a nationwide thing for
Okay.
Medicaid and waivers and stuff.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's really dense information to sort through and understand what you can do, and then even
Yeah,
finding the right like in-person assistance too to maybe
for
kind of
sure.
guide you through it. It's a process. So I'm sure you know all about that. You're probably finding out some about, your new home state and everything too. I'm sure that'll be
Yeah.
learning experience. Yeah. If we, I would like to get into the move a little bit more and kind of your experience with that. Maybe I know we've talked a little bit in the past about what prompted the move, but if you want to share a little bit about that on the pod here too.
Yeah, basically, like with my endometriosis specifically in Minnesota with the extreme hot or like very extreme cold weather, it was just making it super debilitating.
Mhm.
And it was like pretty manageable up until I had my full-time job. But then I was like, I had no choice but to leave my house when it was like negative 10 degrees some days.
True.
And it just causes my pain to become like so unbearable. My symptoms were
Mhm.
so much worse. And the air quality has been really horrible the last few years in Minnesota from the wildfires and stuff. So just like not even being able to like function outside really in Minnesota. So that was like one of the main reasons we decided to move in general. But then we kind of just like went through our like list of states and kind of filtered through, where might be the best option for us to land,
Mhm.
where we have like some family support in different states in the country. So we ended up obviously choosing Oregon, and it's been good so far. But yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of the, I guess, figuring out what common factors all make sense for the
Yeah.
state that you chose. Yeah, yeah. And I know that you reached out and found some community there as well. Like, did you
Yeah.
find them through social media initially, or how did that kind of develop?
Yeah, like, just, like, having my endometriosis page has, like, brought me to a lot of, like, other endometriosis communities, and I've never actually, like, met people in Minnesota with endo, even though we
Mhm.
have, like, a big, like, community Facebook page and stuff, but, like, I personally know, like, so many people that are also my age here that have
Mhm.
endometriosis, and
Yeah.
it's something that we've super noticed since just moving here, even in the first week, is that, like, so many people are outside walking with mobility aids or are in
Mhm.
wheelchairs and walkers, and in Minnesota, like, it was obvious if you went, like, out of the house or, like, in public, people would stare at you if you have like, if
Mm.
I was walking with my cane or if I was in my wheelchair, and it's, like, so normalized here that, like, I just feel so much more comfortable, like, being myself and using mobility aids when I need to.
Almost like a second nature thing now, right? Like, wow,
Yeah.
I didn't realize Oregon was that disability friendly. That's
Yeah.
it's really cool to know that there are some places like that because it's rare from my experience, to
Yeah, for
find.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's really great though. As far as like with endo, is there kind of a general age group? Like, did you feel like you were in an area maybe where, there wasn't quite as much in common because of that difference, or is it something else maybe?
I think, like, the people that are, like, actually talking about it and stuff are more, like, Gen Z, like, my
Hmm.
generation.
Hmm.
I would see, like, some, like, older women that would,
Yeah.
like, have discussions about it and stuff, but, like, it's still a little hard to, like, relate completely
Mhm.
to them just because,
Yeah.
like, I'm in a place where I just finished college and I'm learning for the first time how to deal with my disability in the workplace and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Just kind of the right, I guess, right vibe or energy with the community
Yeah,
around makes a difference. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Going into your kind of like diagnostic journey and your healthcare growing up, like what was it like with diagnosis and then figuring out, is there a care team that works best or kind of where to go treatment wise? That kind of highlights of that pathway.
Yeah, so like when I was growing up, I definitely had like quite a bit of symptoms of endometriosis and my other chronic illnesses and stuff that I've been
Hmm.
diagnosed since after I turned 18. And I just didn't have the care that I needed growing up necessarily. And obviously, like it's hard to know for sure, I think, what your child is going through when they say like, oh, I'm having pain. And especially with endometriosis, like things like being in pain when you're on your period, which is a very common symptom for people with endo,
Hmm.
is just so normalized in our society, even though it's not something that's normal. So once I really had to do like a ton of my own research when I was getting to the point of like when I was like 18 years old. My symptoms of endo started when I was 13. But they became just so unbearable after I became an adult and was working more and like pushing my body more, things like that. I was going to school full time and working. So I did end up like going to the doctor myself and being like, hey, I'm pretty sure I have this. And
Yeah.
the first time they were like, no, I think that you have something else, or they was just like super dismissive. And this was with a male OBGYN, which was the first OBGYN I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
So I got rid of them. I found a woman OBGYN and immediately like listing out my symptoms, she was like, yes, I know that you have this.
Mm.
So from there, I was able to have a surgery with her that was really like unfortunate situation and didn't actually like have my endometriosis removed like she said that she did.
Yeah.
So I tried different medications and stuff, and then I finally applied myself to get into the Mayo Clinic in Rochester,
Mhm.
Minnesota, and that ever since has been where like my entire care team has been for pretty much all of my chronic illnesses.
Yeah, so you basically were approved and admitted there, and then you were able to find kind of the right treatment plan and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
What was it like transitioning from, kind of what health plan you were on to the Mayo Clinic? Was that kind of hard to get into there at first?
It is kind of like difficult to like be accepted into their program and
Yeah.
stuff. And you have to like apply, you have to like I literally had to write like a multi-page essay to get in there. And they don't accept people with just like very early stages of endometriosis. Like you
Mhm.
have to be extremely sick or dying of whatever disease to be able to get accepted there
So it
most
has to
times.
be kind of in the most severe extreme case to be able to actually get in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I'm
So
curious on that surgery that didn't work out. Did the doctor, were they actually saying that they had removed it and everything was good, or like how did that
yes.
even
Yes,
happen?
they told me and my entire family that, like the people that were there post-op, that she removed all of my stage 4 endometriosis.
Mhm.
And I happened to be doing some sort of like research study with a gal from like the United Kingdom, and she was like, "Hey, if you do this study, I will run your surgery images by this surgeon in another like foreign country." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay." So she did it, and the surgeon came back and said, "Yeah, at most you had like a centimeter of endometriosis removed."
Mhm.
So that like definitely checked out with the symptoms I was having. I was like way worse off after that surgery.
Yeah.
That was in March of 2023. And so I ended up seeing a different endometriosis specialist in Minnesota who
Mhm.
confirmed that that was true, that like he was like very upset, like, "Oh my gosh, how did this doctor do this to you?" and like not remove the disease. So
Yeah.
that's why, like, before I found that out, luckily I had already applied to the Mayo Clinic without even knowing that. I just knew that something was wrong.
So
And
you
then,
had already taken like into your own hands to go there and
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And
Wow.
then
Well,
my second surgery was in November of 2023. So just months apart.
that's just like shocking to me, that first of all, you had to go through the initial male OBGYN and then you found a female one who, diagnosed it more correctly. And then you still went through the
Yeah.
surgery that went wrong with it. I mean, that whole process just seems like it never should have
Yeah,
gotten to
and it
that
was
point.
just horrible because I, like, seriously trusted that doctor
Right.
that did the surgery, so, like,
Right.
that just seriously caused so much, like, unnecessary medical trauma for me and not being able to trust doctors in the future and stuff.
That's jarring, I think, for so many people, because you want to go in thinking they're the expert and say no, and they know how to handle the situation or offer legitimate guidance. And then when
Yeah.
you lose trust like that, I mean, it's just a layer of trauma. I think that, I mean, it makes everything worse. So, so when you got into Mayo Clinic and everything sort of stabilized, and were you able to
Yeah.
move forward kind of?
Yeah, I mean, they did like really extensive testing to be able to see my endometriosis on
Mhm.
imaging. And then they did a surgery and it was 9 hours long. They had to
Wow.
remove three of my organs because at that point my endometriosis was just so severe
Mhm.
on those organs. And then like from there, luckily like it's all just one system.
Mhm.
So I saw other doctors in the middle of seeing things for endometriosis and they were like, "Oh yeah, you also have this illness or like this disability." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, like a list of different, like,
Yeah.
complicating factors, I guess, yeah. For people that don't know, as far as endo goes, like, how does that impact, kind of all like, your entire system? Like, can it, move to different organs specifically? And just
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like tissue that grows on the outside of the organs.
Mhm,
And for a lot of people, it does like stay in that pelvic region, like
mhm,
the uterus and ovaries and things like that. But for severe cases like stages 3 and 4, it does like grow and spread.
mhm,
So like I had it all the way up into my diaphragm and just in the worst places ever. And then when I got my imaging back and stuff, like the actual pictures of my organs, it was literally like looking at black tar that was just
mhm.
like spread all over my
Just
organs.
covered. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow, well, that had to make, I mean, kinda rehab and recovery even after, procedure to remove it, like, that had to be challenging to go through too. Like, what did
Yeah.
the treatment regimen look like, and did it kind of alleviate the majority of things, or is it like there's a level of pain that you're just gonna have to, sort of
There's
deal with?
definitely, yeah, like, pain that I'll have, like, just the rest of my life from it and
Mhm,
stuff, and I am expected because my case is so severe to have surgeries, like, once every 1 to 3 years for it,
mhm,
but, like, after about 6 months post-op, I started feeling, like, a lot of relief, and I've also made, like, other lifestyle changes, like, I eat a lot healthier now, I really try to exercise and just, like, focus on not using toxic products in my everyday
mhm.
life and things like that, that I've also noticed have played a huge role in, like, me being able to have less
Mhm.
pain and stuff, so it's been a
Yeah,
journey for sure.
yeah, yeah, and as far as, like, living environment, if I remember correctly, you mentioned something about molds as well,
Yes.
that could have played a part in
Yes,
it? Yeah.
and it's actually interesting because a lot of people, that I talk to and stuff, I just see a lot of people have also experienced living in homes with mold, and it's to the point with me now where if, like, I walk into a building and there's mold in it, I
Mhm,
know, like, immediately, like, I start having symptoms almost immediately.
mhm.
So, yeah, we had mold, in one of the homes I lived in the last, like, 4 years, and it made that it was when my symptoms were at their absolute worst, so
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's something I think people don't think about as well. The environment can play such a big factor in what's going
yeah.
on. I mean, yeah, and then like you said, like smoke from fires, things like that. I mean, sometimes there's just exasperating factors that are going on that make it,
Yeah,
where
for
you have
sure.
to move. Yeah, yeah. Going into the transition to finding a medical team where you are now, I know that you had posted some things about needing to find a primary care doctor, and then you had to get referrals of some kind from Minnesota. What all was going on with that?
Yeah, so when I moved here, I called to because they don't have like a central care place here like we do in Minnesota. We have the Mayo Clinic. So all of
Mhm,
my doctors and specialists can be in one place. And here that would be like Legacy Health or OHSU, which is like those bigger hospitals.
mhm,
So when I first moved here, before I moved here, I called and I was like, hey, can I set up an appointment? And they're like, no, not unless you have an Oregon address.
mhm.
So then I waited, and once we moved here, I called and they're like, okay, you can't even see a primary care doctor without a referral. And I don't like I wasn't regularly seeing doctors outside of Mayo Clinic in
Right.
Minnesota, and Mayo Clinic doesn't make outside referrals. So I was like, okay, what if I don't have a doctor? And they were like, then I don't know what to say. Like, you just won't be able to be seen then.
Mhm.
So I've called like a bunch of other places too, and I actually posted about this on my TikTok a few days ago and
Uh-huh.
was so pleasantly surprised to hear that I am not alone in this situation.
That helps.
There are so many other people in Oregon that are struggling with this and just like not being
Mhm.
able to find doctors, or if they do, the wait time is like months and months out.
Yeah.
So luckily this week I was able to find a primary care doctor, but it's in Washington State. So I do have to drive across the border, which is somewhat
Wow.
close to where I am, but still, like, I would prefer to have my care in the state
Right,
I live
right. I mean,
in.
that's another complication that's factoring into everything. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, yeah, it's like you went through all the decision making, to find the place and then to be met with that kind of issue, finding primary care. I mean, that's just like,
Yeah.
do you think is it a limitation of availability of primary care, like willing to take you on, or like I wonder
It's
what's causing?
also yeah, it's definitely that as well, especially from what I've heard from other people, and there
Mhm.
was one clinic that I had called, like a more, like a bigger clinic that would have, like, more specialists and things like that, and they said I just asked, can I see this one specialist? And they're like, oh, well, you have to get a referral from a primary care doctor,
Mhm.
but none of them are accepting new referrals because five of them quit at the end of 2024 and we haven't hired any new ones. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, so I will not be able to see any doctors here.
Right, right, and then specialists too, like, are you gonna have to go out of state to see any of them, or I guess kinda navigate that as you go, probably?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of waiting till I can see my primary care doctor so
Yeah,
they can like make those referrals to the specialists and stuff.
yeah,
I was able to find one specialist that didn't require referral, thankfully. But I need like over 10 different referrals. So,
right.
one is great, but eventually I'll need more.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you would like all of those specialists to be, I mean, as close to the same
Yeah,
place or network or something, right? Because I
right.
mean, it would be nice if they could communicate too, and
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
wow, that's ridiculous that
Yeah.
and the fact that Mayo Clinic doesn't offer referrals either, I mean, that doesn't seem like that seems very unusual to me.
Yeah, I actually like didn't know that as a
Yeah.
patient there, so that's been like just extremely disappointing because like there's just a lot of things that I'm seen there for,
Mhm.
and it would just be so much more convenient if they could make
Wow.
outside
Yeah.
referrals.
Yeah. Wow. So you're still once again kind of put in that position to basically build up your team out there again.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's ridiculous that it's come to that, to get care like that. Honestly, even the quality of care, like that was part of what made me move from New Mexico to
yeah,
Tennessee is to get, a care team at Vanderbilt where it's like, well, they have a muscular dystrophy clinic and they have the specialists in-house that can all communicate back and forth. And it's
yeah,
just like if you don't have that and you're piecing together care, there's just so much left out or so many gaps, I feel like. And
yeah, yeah,
it's just like, I mean, making the fight that much harder,
100%.
it's
Yeah.
not just the health, it's fighting all these other battles. As far as like dealing with that, like mentally kind of coping with that whole situation, like how has that been? And have you kind of found ways to sort of handle that or deal with it as it comes, I guess?
Honestly, I think the nice thing about right now is that I'm so busy with everything else at the
Yeah.
same time that I'm just like, okay, I need to just like I have no choice but to move on from being
Yeah.
angry about that and just keep doing other things. But I think also like being able to communicate with like community, especially like new
Mhm.
community in Oregon, and just like hearing other people say that they're experiencing the same thing has
Yeah.
been like super helpful for me.
Yeah, yeah, that connection community where you can kind of vent and, like you said, it's almost like only people that are going through, some of those same diagnoses as you would understand versus
Yeah,
even, parent support or family or friends that, they obviously care and want to help, but they can't really know, exactly how it feels, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's hopefully all of the care
Mhm.
team thing works out because that
Yeah.
and you're right, like the move, sometimes you're so busy with everything else involved that goes into moving to a different state. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
it distracts you in a way maybe that helps
Yeah.
mentally. Yeah, yeah, I feel that for sure too. Yeah, wow, that's quite a list of things to navigate.
Yeah.
As far as like social media, getting into it and sharing your story, like w- was there ever a point where you're like, I'm not sure if I want to share these details, or what was the process like for you to kind of create your social media page and start putting out information like you're doing?
I think like, well, at first it was definitely more like education only and less of like my own experience and
Mhm.
stuff with things. And now I kind of like to just do both of those things because it's more relatable when you're sharing your own experience. And I used to really like shy away from more taboo topics and stuff, and now I just don't care. And I've had like some even of like my own extended family members come up to me and be like, "Oh my gosh, like this is helping me so much." And
Really? Wow.
like, "Oh wow, like I did not expect you to ever say that."
Mhm.
Or like I've had a lot of people that I went to high school with or that my younger sister went to high school with reach out and say like, "Hey, like I was diagnosed with this condition. Like, I saw your video and you sharing your experience. Like, can I ask you questions about it or can you help me find a doctor in my area and things like that?" So I think now like it's so rewarding to know that I'm helping people, even if it
Mhm.
is just like a couple people. And I think at this point I know it's more than that.
Yeah.
Um, so I just like I think I have cared in the past a little bit, like what people might think, but
Mhm.
it's the reward of it and being able to help people definitely outweighs that.
Right, right. No, I feel similarly to that. I really hadn't put anything on social media or shared anything about, health until probably like the last 3 years now.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you think, well, I'm not going to be somebody that's doing social media or posting on, sharing stories. And obviously, everybody has their own, I guess, comfort level with sharing, but
Yeah,
it's like through extensive rehab and going through more severe progressive things, it's almost like it's therapeutic too, I think, to get
for
that out
sure. Yeah.
there. Yeah, yeah. And as far as like how you deliver and everything, is it I've noticed you put out, some more like slide-based content as well with more details on specific things, but there's
Yeah.
also kind of the videos, sharing too. Like
Yeah.
what led you to kind of your strategy, I guess, to share?
I think like right now it's just like easier for me to sometimes make more videos and stuff.
Mm.
Just because I can, do some research and then just like kind of talk about it and add in my own experience.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when I'm just like writing my post, whatever, it can feel a little bit like less personal,
Mm.
and stuff. But I
Mhm.
really just like being able to talk to people. And I think that it's more personal for like people watching too, to be able to, relate somewhat or things like that.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It is kind of that human connection. It's not quite in person, but it is more personal than the
Yeah.
text-based ones. Yeah, yeah. I wanted to ask you a little bit about a recent one, kind of the stigmatization of intimacy with disability, and kind of what led you to sort of post information on that, and like how is, I guess, in your eyes, how is that topic going? Like, where are the problems, and where does it need to go to improve it, I guess?
Yeah, I think like in general, like that's a topic that's pretty like taboo in the disabled community and
Yeah,
stuff. And like I kind of mentioned in it, like there's a lot of what's the word, infantilization of
yeah,
disabled people and things like that. And that's something that I've experienced myself, especially as like being a neurodivergent person. So I mean, I really like discussing those topics and just like being able to get that information out there. I think especially lately, like I'm really more interested in talking about things that are more like taboo and
yeah.
stuff. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, what do you feel like the biggest, I guess, assumption or stigma? Like, obviously, there is the infantilizing part of it, but like, is it that people don't think that that's something that's important in
Yeah, I
disability?
think that, and I think people, there's just so many assumptions made about disabled people,
Mhm.
especially like the more like intimate parts of like disabled people's lives that like
Yeah,
don't aren't even necessarily other people's business,
right,
especially like sex with disabilities and how do just people with disabilities have sex and are they having
right.
sex and things like that. I just think that those topics are like really important to get out there for people, especially like because I don't know, like it's okay to be curious and to
Yeah,
wonder and stuff. I know like before I was disabled and like even into my beginning stages of being disabled, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting, you know, like how does this work for some people? And now like my partner and I too have like gone to sex therapy and stuff like that, where like you do learn more about just like those things in general. And I just like think it's important to be able to like share all of that information if you can,
Yeah,
especially since like I said, there are so many people that just like assume things.
right, right.
And then that leads to like stigmas and just things like that.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's kind of a big difference between curious from more of an empathetic and understanding type of approach versus people that are maybe like get weird kicks from knowing
Yes.
about it or things like that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, and like especially since my community is more like chronic illness
yeah,
disability related, like I just feel comfortable like sharing information like that versus like if it was like my own personal like Instagram page or something, I probably wouldn't because there are
true.
some like I grew up with people that I know would like see that post and just like make it weird, you know,
Yeah,
because people
intentionally
are
just make it awkward, basically.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's really weird. And I think too about the sort of spectrum on disability. I wanted to get your thoughts on that too. Like, do you find that maybe the more extreme, the more severe the illness or disability is, the more negative stigma or like maybe more assumptions on, well, there's no way someone could even begin to think about intimacy of any kind, like
yeah,
what do you
yeah,
think on that?
I definitely think so. And I think sometimes too, like even in certain disabilities, like there's different stages. And when I was in like my early stages and stuff,
Mm,
like that's not something I would have thought about, and now it's something that affects me, and
mm.
so it is something that I have to think about. But I think more so, you know, especially for people who are in wheelchairs, people love to make assumptions about what's going
Yeah.
on in their intimacy life and whatever stuff like
And if
that.
it's even possible or anything like that.
Yes,
Yeah,
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 exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
I've seen
And
questions too, where people are just like, well, how could that ever possibly happen? And they want every last detail. And you're just like, I
yes,
mean, that's a little bit far to go into the personal side of things. So
right,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And I think too, it's like in the end, it's, between the partners really I mean, that's the only place really that a lot of
yeah,
those details belong, I feel like. And
yeah.
yeah, it's just strange how people feel almost entitled to be invasive about things
Totally. I
like
think
that.
entitled is the perfect word to describe what I
Yeah.
think a lot of people feel about having that information.
You think there's any way to sort of fight against it, or do you think that those people are just going to be like weird about it, and there's really nothing
I
much you
think
can
some
do?
people are just weird about it in general. Like I said, like I could think of so many people that I even grew up
Yeah.
with that are just like that and
Mhm.
just want to make disgusting comments about people that are disabled and their intimate lives and things like that. But I do think like that's kind of part of like why I am sort of like stepping into like wanting to share more information about that is because when some people like can like eventually empathize
Mhm.
with just like the situation and understand that like, oh, it's really like not that big of a deal. And like disabled people have sex just like able people
Yeah.
have sex and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like
Yeah.
it's really not as interesting as people think it
Yeah.
is.
I mean, in the end, that's like all humans are fairly similar in
Yeah.
that area. I mean, there's only so many differences probably.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned that you had gone to like a sex therapist and like explored that. What was that like finding? Like, what was your strategy to finding someone who could like relate or understand enough of disability even to kind of help through that?
Well, luckily my sex therapist was at the Mayo Clinic, so they just
Oh,
like
okay.
referred me there, and most people at the Mayo Clinic have some sort of disability or something. But I never did. Like I have been suggested to, you know, go to a sex therapist, counselor, or something
Yeah.
before that, and it never even crossed my mind that that person would like have to be disability and trauma informed.
Hmm.
And like meeting someone that is like so disability informed about like sex and things like that was just like
Hmm.
super helpful because there's no like it is obviously kind of like an uncomfortable topic to even like bring up
Right.
yourself. So for them to just like pitch it to you and like ask all these questions and then go over like it was so comfortable like
Yeah.
meeting with them and things like that. So I think that it really helps to just like try to find someone who's like disability knowledgeable right off the bat if you do have a disability and you're trying to look for like
Yeah.
advice and things like that.
Yeah, so I guess that would be something where you just kind of look in your maybe care network or maybe ask
Yeah,
another doctor to kind of like refer you there basically. And then
yeah,
yeah, and obviously like I mean any kind of therapy too. It's like if it's not a good fit, like you can always, go
yeah.
look somewhere else.
Find
Like
someone
I
else.
think some people feel like they're kind of stuck, and they can't find the right one that works, but it's almost
Yeah,
like you just have to keep trying to find somebody until you do. But
yeah,
um,
100%.
yeah, yeah. And so I guess now being where you're at, you're probably looking for I mean, that would be another like therapist or specialist you would have to seek out and find all over again. And
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, so every single doctor or therapist is like a journey, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to touch back. You mentioned something about how you would share it on your professional page and not your personal one. Like, what is that dynamic like, and how have you sort of kept or enforced boundaries that you needed to along the way, as far as like what your audience is and who can see the content and everything?
As far as like I do see people that are on my personal page sometimes view my like disability page video,
Yeah.
like them and stuff like that. Um, and I do know like I have been in spaces with people that I went to high school with and stuff like that
Mm.
since I've been disabled. And like people, definitely know about it and have said things about it or made fun of me about it or whatever. So I don't I don't share a lot from my endometriosis or chronic illness page on my personal page. I
Yeah.
will sometimes still on my personal page, like I talk about human rights issues, and that includes disability rights and stuff like that. So it's
Right.
more, like broad, but I don't necessarily share like my own personal things that are going on or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, and when you have both accounts, there's naturally going to be some spillover, I feel like, one way or
Yeah,
the other. But at the same time, it's like, sometimes, and I'm kind of navigating this too myself. It's like, well, like my goals and missions and everything of having the personal page are very different than the page where I'm sharing
yeah,
disability and doing the podcast and things like that. So
yeah,
it's always tricky to me now to like sort of know where that line is, and obviously if it's on social media, like sooner or later, some way it's probably going to reach
right.
everybody too. So
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. It's a trade-off of like what you're willing to, I guess, deal with once it gets out
yeah,
there. But
for sure.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, there's just so many interesting dynamics, I think, with disability life and social media and everything. But
Yeah.
um, do you feel like overall though it's been like mostly positive, everything that you've kind of put out there on that, and like the help that you've been able to give and receive too? Like it seems like overall it's been, way more beneficial than harmful.
Yes, I don't usually get a lot of like super ableist people that message
Yeah,
me or have like horrible comments to say. There's the occasional like people just wanting to bring you down and stuff
always. Yeah,
like that, or you gotta not look into those message requests on
true.
Instagram DMs sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes just don't
Um,
approve it.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah, but overall, like the I've definitely had like good luck, I think, with people responding
yeah,
well to what I post and like just being willing to learn and stuff like that. So that's good.
yeah. As far as like you said, you had a TikTok, right? Like,
Yes.
is there one sort of random comment that you can remember or think of where it was just like this is extremely ableist, and like, or do you just kind of dismiss it right away and not even try to remember
I think
any?
like the number one comment that I get is if I post things with my partner
Mm,
and people are saying like, oh, if it was the other way around, like she would have left or something like that. And
mm,
my partner also has disabilities, they're just not
yeah,
physical.
yeah,
And I think people don't realize too that like just because I have physical disabilities doesn't mean like, first of all, I don't amount to nothing. I still contribute to many things
right.
and I still have the ability to love my partner and care for them and things like that. Like it's not a one-sided situation, although my
Yeah,
disabilities may be seen as more severe than his are. Like, so I think that's like the main one. And people will, every once in a while say that like, oh, like even when I was working full time, people would be like, oh, well, you can't work, so you don't amount to anything. And
of
I'm like,
course.
actually,
Yeah.
you don't have to work to amount to anything, first of all, but I do work a full-time job. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, there lies the assumptions with everything that,
yes, yes.
like the burden complex, or like you're not contributing to society or whatever, and
Yeah,
then like I keep thinking about this a lot lately, like a full-time job can look very different, and it's like, well, even if you get disability income, if you're on Medicaid somehow and you're
yeah,
working, I mean, say you're volunteering, right? Like, I mean, there's this not this standard American, 40-hour a week job.
right.
It's like
Yeah,
everybody's job should look different and fit them too. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah, I just think that having that kind of open-mindedness towards, kind of the whole human side of things is just
Yeah,
like a big deal. So
yeah,
yeah, it's a constant battle, I feel like, social media or in person on
yeah,
that. But
for
but
sure.
yeah. Did you ever deal with burden complex things or processing any of that, or Have you always kind of been able to navigate that?
Oh, I definitely do, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to like my family and some of my family members that love to make comments that like I'm not productive enough because I'm
Mhm.
disabled and things like that. And they don't understand that like I don't get to just like go and work a full 40-hour physically demanding, I'm lifting 20 pounds every single day job. And like I have done things like that in the past too, and like I can't do it. And so there is like definitely times where I get harder on myself about it. And
Mhm.
even just in the last couple of weeks, I've definitely felt like that. But I think like it's a lot less now. And I'm just kind of like, I just go with the flow and like people, yeah. I think that some people, just like don't want to see you being happy, even if that includes you not having a job or like having a job that works for what fits your own needs and stuff.
Mhm.
And you can never make every single person happy, and that's
True.
just the truth. So
Right.
I feel like being able to understand that more, especially now, like years after I've been diagnosed with my disabilities and stuff, like helps a lot and helps me to be able to push through those thoughts and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right. At the end of the day, too, like there has to be some element of self-care too, and focus. And I mean, like that's not. It's not that you're being selfish. You're not caring about anybody else, but still, like it's kind of like your life, and you're going through, these things and processing, and it's like there's not a right or wrong, way
Yeah.
necessarily. Yeah, yeah. Well, that really makes a lot of sense. Closing out, kind of one question I had was when you're trying to escape or get away, is there like a go-to thing that you do to sort of relax and not think about the world, basically?
Yes, I love to paint and I love to play guitar. So
Oh,
I've actually been
nice.
doing a lot of painting since we moved, just like in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that really helps me to like stay grounded and just like forget about everything going on around me and de-stress.
yeah, yeah. Just something to relax that way. Any kind of like, why do you like to paint? Kind of everything, or does it just depend?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of like paint whatever.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
like specific, but
Whatever comes to mind. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember I used to use oil paint and do a
Oh,
lot of
nice.
like nature wildlife stuff. So that was
Yeah,
always cool. But yeah, that's that creative element's kind of nice, I think, to fall back on.
it is. Yeah.
But yeah, well, I sure appreciate, the time with everything, Avery, and sharing, a lot of your story and journey so far, and then looking forward to seeing where you go next in your new home state and
Thank
everything.
you.
But if anybody wants to reach out and find out more and kind of connect or ask you questions, is Instagram kind of the go-to, or do you have other places that you want to
Yeah,
direct?
both my Instagram and TikTok, it's just endometriosis Ave. So you can reach out to me there or yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll be sure to share that too in the captions and everything. And I sure appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to connect and then have a conversation finally with it. So
Yes, thank you.
yeah, yeah.